you're welcome back to the show. It's Factual Chat with Debby, and my name is Deborah Balama. You can actually call me Debby. It's a beautiful evening, and it's a very, very interesting topic we're talking about today. If you're just joining us for the first time, Factual Chat with Debby is basically that show that takes you through a lot of topical issues. I mean, issues that are worth talking about, issues that perhaps must have been swept under the carpet, issues that are burning issues that affect Nigeria, issues that really actually leads to our development, issues that make Nigeria a better place. And today we are looking at something that happened over the weekend, on Friday specifically. I did like you to invite your friends to join, because we'll be kicking off with the honorable member first. So I'm just waiting for her to, once I see her on live, I'll be adding her up. People are trying to get used to the visual interview, so visual interview is just a new feature, and a lot of people are trying to get acclimatized to it. So with time, it would pick up, all right? But the topic we have today is a very, very interesting one. What it means is that if there is independence of the judiciary, one problem solved. What that means is that the judiciary will not need to do the beck and call of the executive, even though they still get appointed by the executive. How independent does that really make them? Please go ahead and invite your friends. We are waiting up for Honorable Victoria Wobo Nyeche to join us as we talk about this. We would have O.C. Jokocha later on in the show. He's having problems with his internet, and he's trying to get to a place, his office space, where he can use his Wi-Fi to transmit with us live. We had tested earlier on and everything was good, but suddenly there was an internet problem on his gadget. So you're going to bear with us. But we're going to be on with Honorable Victoria Wobo Nyeche in a split. She is supposed to join us soon. Once I see her, I will add her up. I think I should just go ahead and invite her. Please invite your friends. I don't want to kick off the show with just the number I'm seeing here. It's a very interesting topic, and I did like a lot of good heads to join. I can see George Okoye already here. I did like to have matured minds on this show today, and I'm glad the caliber of persons I'm already seeing here. I can see George Okoye. I can see Glory Woroko. I can see Toyin Wariboko. I like the crowd I'm already seeing, so keep coming. I did like to have matured minds that understand what we're looking at today, because it's a very, very important matter. All right, so let me go ahead and invite her. I think she is she's waiting online, perhaps. Please invite your friends. Please invite your friends to join the show. Please invite your friends to join the show. Please share. Okay, I just invited her. I think she should be joining us anytime. We're waiting for her. But I think while we're waiting for her, let me just read the story, the news article that actually gave us the information about the signage of the executive order. President MUHAMMADU Buhari on Friday signed into law an executive order to grant financial autonomy to the legislature and the judiciary across the 36 states of the Federation. The order also mandates the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct from source amount due to state legislatures and judiciaries from the monthly allocation to each state for the 36 states, especially for those states that refuse to grant such autonomy. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, said this in a statement which was signed by his Special Assistant on Media and Public Relations, Umaru Gundu. He made this available to newsmen on Friday. Mr. Malami said the Executive Order number 10 of 2020 made it mandatory that all states of the Federation should include the allocations of both the legislature and the judiciary in the first line charge of their budgets. According to the AGF, a presidential implementation committee was constituted to fashion out strategies and modalities for the implementation of financial autonomy for the state legislature and state judiciary in compliance with Section 121 3 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999. He said consideration was given to all other application laws, instruments, convention, and regulation that provided for financial autonomy at the states. I'll read that paragraph again for emphasis, because when OCJ comes on, that is a very important aspect we'll be looking at. Please take note of it. He said consideration was given to all other applicable laws, instruments, convention, and regulations that provided for financial autonomy at the states. This is to say, this law, before the signage of the executive order, they had considered every other law existing that authorizes the state governors to be in charge of this. Okay, I can see our guest. She's already here. I think I need to bring her up to the camera. Beautiful. I've added her. Our guest is already live. She's joining us live. Let her join, and I can go ahead. But please invite your friends. It's a very important topic, because with this, we can actually start seeing an independent judiciary. With this, you might actually be in a state that is a one-party state, and you will see the assembly passing laws that affect the people without caring whether the governor is interested in it or not. Welcome. Hello. Good evening. Yes, you're live. We can hear you. Good evening.
All right. Good evening.
Before we go ahead, let me introduce you to the people who are watching. Okay, we are live with Honorable Victoria Wobo Nyeche. For those of you who do not know her around Nigeria, I'm pretty sure she's known around her constituents. But let us introduce her to Nigeria. She was the member representing Port Harcourt City Constituency 1 in the River State House of Assembly. She was there for 8 years. That's 2 tenures. And in the first tenure, she was actually, it was actually a one-party state until there was disputes, and then they moved to the APC. She won again and came back, and this time on her second missionary journey to the River State House of Assembly, she came back as an opposition member, because at that time, the governor of the state was a PDP member, and majority of the House was PDP. So that you understand why she's being brought on the show today. She's coming because she understands what an independent assembly will look like, and a dependent assembly looks like. Good evening once again, and welcome, ma'am.
Thank you. Let me say that you're looking very beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, before you came in, I was actually going through the news. I think I need to read it again for you to follow through, because I know you must have heard the news, but there are details I want to read out. You know, we're looking at the angle we're taking you on is the angle that concerns the houses of assembly. That is to say, finally, do you think that with this, we can actually have an independent assembly, especially in a case where, in some states where we have 2 parties or 3 parties, and maybe the majority maybe the majority party or the governor is in the minority party. I'll give a very good instance. I think a typical example should be, I'm trying to look for the state. I think at the moment, a typical example of that should be
Bayelsa.
Bayelsa is a very, very good example of that at the moment, where you have lots of members that are of APC or PDP, and then the governor is of APC or PDP, you know. So let's go through the news again so that you can follow through and hear what the president has done. This happened on Friday. And though it didn't make much of the headlines, I wonder why, you know. But the legal practitioners are saying it doesn't hold water since the constitution is now amended. But we're not going to that. We're going to take OCJ Okocha on that. But let us read the news again, and then so you can follow through. President MUHAMMADU BUHARI on Friday signed into law an executive order to grant financial autonomy to the legislature and the judiciary across the 36 states of the Federation. The order also mandates the Accountant General of the Federation to deduct the source amounts to the state legislatures and judiciaries from the monthly allocation to each state for the 36 states, especially for states that refuse to comply with the autonomy order. The Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, Abubakar Malami, said this in a statement which was signed by his special assistant on media and public relations, Omar Ogwendu. He made this available to newsmen on Friday. Mr. Malami said that the Executive Order number 10 of 2020 made it mandatory that all states of the Federation should include the allocations of both the legislature and the judiciary in the first-line chart of their budgets. According to the AGF, a Presidential Implementation Committee was constituted to fashion out strategies and modalities for the implementation of financial autonomy for the state legislature and state judiciary in compliance with Section 1213 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999. I want you to listen to this particular paragraph because you might later on, there might be need for, I'm calling on you, everybody watching. Listen to this paragraph again. He said, consideration was given to all other applicable laws, instruments, conventions, and regulations that provided for the financial autonomy at the states. Mr. Malami maintained that the implementation of financial autonomy of the state legislature and judiciary would strengthen the institution at the state level and make them more independent and accountable in line with the tenets of democracy as enshrined in the Nigerian Constitution. The statement added that the President signed Executive Order number 10 into law based on the power vested in him as the President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria under Section 5 of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria as amended in 1999, which extends to the executive and maintenance of the Constitution. Laws made by the National Assembly, including but not limited to Section 1213 of the 1999 Constitution as amended, which guarantee financial autonomy of the state legislature and state judiciary. Mr. Malami said that the executive order provides that the Accountant General of the Federation shall, by this order and as such, any other orders, regulation, or guidelines as may be issued by the Attorney General of the Federation and Minister of Justice, authorize the deduction from source of the cost of Federation, from the purse of the Federation accounts from the money allocated to the state at the federal level. And the allocation will be released to the states. Listen to this, will be released to the states with the deduction already made. So that is the news. Now let us go to the discussion. You were in the House of Assembly. Can you tell us how it is to be in a state assembly that you are an opposition member and the financial dealings of the assembly is being paroled by the governor? Can you tell us your experience in your second 4 years in office? A little bit of it.
Well, thank you very much, Debbie and viewers. The fact is that whether you are in let me call it the minority party, but I think whether you're a member of the minority party or a member of the majority party, the fact is that if the finances of the legislature, it just makes the legislature very dependent on the executive, and that does not actually make for proper democratic governance. It does not make for the independence of the different arms. It defeats the constitutional requirements of separation of powers and checks and balances. So I think it's a very welcome development to start with. But like you said, it's worse when you're in a minority party. It's really worse. And I'm sure my case is something that is known to everybody in Rivers State, how my constituents were denied their dues because of the kind of politics that has characterized our state. But let me say that it does not have to be that way. In other states, they don't have such occurrence. But what is important is that every arm of government should have financial autonomy. And it is not just ending at that financial autonomy for them, because what it now means is that, yes, the head of the legislature, which is the Speaker of the House, is the one who, with his leadership, determines how the place is funded and how the funds are actually utilized, which is a very welcome development. But it's important to state that That is not all that we need to strengthen democracy, but it's a major step to strengthen democracy. One would expect that when this is available to the different houses of assembly, that the accounting officer, which is the clerk of the house, he is the chief accounting officer, is expected that that office will be strengthened so that they would actually discharge their duties properly, so that we don't end up transferring, if we have a system that is not very functional, we don't end up transferring the dysfunctional system from the executive to the legislature. So it's important that we have people of integrity. It's important that we have structures that will run independently, because that is what the Constitution has. Okay. It's not something that I would wish on any other person. I would not wish that they go through what I went through as a member of the House of Assembly in the second tenure. It was not a very good thing. But one thing I must mention is that with this, development, if such a situation comes up, the speaker will not have the usual excuse of, oh, it's the governor, it's the governor. Now the buck rests on his table. So you know that if a speaker decides to deny his members, their due, those things can be handled, because first of all, there is proximity, and we have our instruments of ensuring that people are called to order. Thank you.
So what used to happen before now? I shouldn't say before now, because it's still going on. We are still to get the enactment of this law. So why am I being too forward? Well, can you give us a little example? For instance, as a member of the opposition in the last assembly, were your allowances given to you? Were you paid as other people were paid? Was your constituency carried along as other constituencies were carried along in major projects that were embarked upon through the constituency project?
Well, I guess it's in the public domain that members of the All Progressive Congress, which I happen to be one of them, as at that time in the House, none of us, or at least most of us, did not get constituency projects for our constituencies. And apart from that, we even discovered that there were different rates of allowances. I think the allowances were party-based. We had a different rate. No, I'm not even I'm talking about the salaries, They had different rates for the members of the All Progressive Congress and the members of the People's Democratic Party. And a lot of, in fact, things were just done on party basis, which, as I mentioned earlier, was peculiar to Rivers State, because I know that the members of the minority party in Bayelsa get their dues. They do not suffer the kind of things that we suffered in our time. So I want to emphasize that those were the peculiar situations we found in Rivers State. I don't think it's obtainable in other states or in most states. It's not the norm, but the difference was that the Speaker of the House, as at then, kept using the governor as the reason. He kept saying, oh, governor did not approve this, governor did not approve, or he's doing his best to get it approved. But now he will not have that kind of fallback. He will not have any excuse to give, because the buck stops on his table. So there were a lot of things that we did not get, a lot of allowances, in fact, but I guess those things for me are in the past and I'm moving forward. But that's why I'm glad that things are changing, steps are being taken to strengthen our democratic governance, to ensure that there is actually a check and a balance and some form of independence of the different arms of government.
Okay, so let us go away from dealing with opposition. What happens in a case where the governor is in another party and there are minority members in the House who are not in his party? Let's look at even a one-party state. With this law, with this executive order passed into law, also strengthen democracy in a one-party state where the governor is in the same party with the assembly? Because even in that case, There are times when the governor goes wrong. The assembly has to go his way because they know that when the right hand washes the left hand will wash the right hand. In some cases, do you think this will strengthen democracy when it comes to the assembly being able to be actually independent? Do you think this will play a role at all?
Of course, it will play a role, but first, we need to have people of integrity in any government at all, whether
Hello?
Yeah, can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and yes.
I'm saying that first, we need to have people of integrity. It's very, very important. Then secondly, let me just remind us that these executive orders, were initiated by this Conference of Speakers of the State Houses of Assembly. They paid a visit to the president sometime in 2019 and asked that he should give an order for the implementation of the financial autonomy that had already been granted. Because it's one thing to have a law, it's another thing to have it implemented. So it was even at their instance that that committee was set up. And what we're seeing today is the result of the work of the committee. So even the speakers are desirous of having these things implemented, because even when you have a law, like the Constitution stipulates that monies be made available to these arms of government, but they are not being implemented. So what the president has done now is to say, look, if you don't implement it, we will take it from source. We don't have to wait for you to, do it. If there's a default, this is what we are going to do. So it's like giving bites to the law. And I think that it will certainly strengthen democracy. It will go a long way. It will make for these things to be implemented, because it does not make sense. It does not do us much good. Where there's actually an independence, where laws that will touch the lives of the people are made, where they don't have to keep applying for approvals and applying for disbursement of funds after budgets have been passed. You now have to go back and get approvals, and you hear, oh, there are no funds, and all kinds of excuses come up, and you have to more or less behave well to get what is due you. Thank you.
Okay, but let us also look. I know you're not in the judiciary. However, I know you have had cases where your matter was taken to the courts, and we all know processes and how it has been, especially with accusation that sometimes the governors have this judiciary, even especially at the state level, in their beck and call, because they, aside from appointing them, they also handle money, whether allowance or gratuity or whatever is due to them, all kinds of allowances and even maintenance of the judiciary. Now, do you think that this, going by the fact that even with the passage of the financial autonomy, the governor will still have the privilege of appointing the people, the judges, do you think that it can actually give us an independent judiciary at the state level?
To some extent, it would contribute, it will play a role. But as I've always maintained, these offices have a lot to do with the officers. If you have people who do not have integrity, if you have people who are not contented with what they earn, they will always want to make a deal, they will always want to have something extra. And that has been the bane of our democracy. So I think it is important that we put on record that the person occupying that office has a role to play. But the laws, of course, are important. And I believe that with this autonomy, things would be better. It will not be Uhuru. It will not be, at its best, but it will certainly be better than what it was. That is my expectation.
Okay. So I think we already have Osijo Kocha on Instagram. So those of you, ma'am, I'd like you to be on this other side and listen to the interview the other way as well. He is about to accept the request, and